Can I tell you a story? I'm gonna tell you a story, and I know you're gonna like it. I'm gonna tell you a story that I know you're gonna like. So let me tell you the story while I shake the camera. Okay. Hello guys, so buckle up. Let's get this started.
For your entertainment.
This is kind of a sad yet pretty funky story. It is my very first physical fight ever. So around second grade is when this guy just discovered he can bully everybody, or pretty much anyone he wanted to. He started like verbally attacking a lot of kids, including me. It took him a while for him to get to me. So first he just started going after other kids, my friends, and I think one time I spoke up for my friends, and so I technically put a target on my back because all of a sudden it just started getting worse and worse. And so, and it was fine at the time because the kid was not like too big, all of a sudden around fourth grade is when he just started like growing really tall and a lot more stocky, and I just was still the scrawniest little tiny kid. So it got even worse because he just started he kept on and on and on and on. And I don't like confrontation, let alone physical. I don't like getting physical. I can't stand when people get physical. So what happens is that we were probably about, I don't remember if it was towards the end of fourth grade or the beginning of, fifth grade. It had gotten really bad. And I was yet to tell any of my brothers, or sisters that this guy was doing this. I thought I could handle it on my own. And I thought that he would go away, eventually would get tired, and he just wouldn't because he really loved doing this. There was so much hatred inside. Something was making him, I'm sure there was, bad stuff going on his house. And so anyway, till this day, that's what I think. But back in the day, we were in the arcades, and this was like so much fun. It was back when you will go to the arcades and, Street Fighters was like the big thing. It was actually, I remember it was Street Fighters 2 had just come out. And so we were like, we had like something in town where you will go buy your tokens. And if you got to the machine first, then obviously you were first player. And so you had you put your stack of tokens right on the edge of the machine, like a little off the screen. And so, whoever comes next, then they will put their pile as, to make, to show whose tokens were whose and who was next and so on and so forth. But that person had the opportunity to challenge you to take over first place. So what happens is that this kid came to the arcade, and I had, just gotten the machine. My brother was with me, but he didn't know that my brother was with me. He didn't know the guy next to me was my brother. And, we had usually all these kids will like to just be, next to you while you're playing, and they'll be watching you, enjoying you play. And so I was fairly good at the game. And I guess he was afraid sort of to challenge me because he was not as good as me, so he knew I could beat him at the game. But the whole story goes to the fact that it's been years since he's been, verbally and physically, pushing me and shoving me at school and like behaving really bad. And I was afraid of the guy, I was afraid of the guy because he just started getting taller and bigger. And I knew that physically I couldn't take him down. And even if I wanted to, it's not my nature to get physical. So I wanted to avoid that, like the plague. And he started trying to get the crowd going, calling me names and like doing, all these things. And he pushed me a couple of times so that I couldn't get my little, hits on the game so that I can sort of lose. And, so he started like really verbally and physically attacking me while I was playing. And so I was trying to laugh it off because I was embarrassed. My brother was there. He didn't know about this. And then he's like, I told him it's been a while. It's been years since he's been doing that. And my brother was like pretty shocked. So my brother started getting angry. But this brother of mine is actually 3 years older than me. I'm the youngest of 6 boys and 3 girls. I was sort of hoping that my brother will put him on his place, but my brother didn't have that in mind. He knew, he was not going to do that. He started developing something else in the process of all this going down. And so what happens is that really, really what changed everything is the fact that he reached over and turned the machine off. Once he knew that he couldn't get away with what he wanted, he just reached over and, turned it off. And I was so angry, but I was afraid at the same time. And so my brother, when he's trying to, get all these kids going on his side and like cheering for him, whatever, I don't know what, he was trying to get attention from everybody, sort of to validate his aggression or whatever. And so my brother turns to me when he's all busy over there and he says, if you don't beat him, I'm going to beat him for you. But then I'm going to turn around and beat your ass for being such a wuss. And I was just like, that sort of like fueled me. But it got me even more scared. And I sort of started thinking, because I really believe my brother will do that, Not that my brother, ever hit me or whatever. It's like, I knew that in order to teach me a lesson, he probably was very likely that he will do that, So anyway, I got so scared and I just sort of like black, like, I don't know. I went into this dark freaking place and I turned around and punched the guy, and I punched him right on the face and knocked him to the floor. And I started freaking out because I knew it was not me, but then I was so scared and I was so angry at the same time. And I started sort of convincing myself that if I let him up, he's gonna end me. I couldn't let him up. And I kept just remembering just gives me that, So anyway, I jumped on his chest and then I grabbed him by the ears and the hair, and I couldn't let him out. And that's what I was like convincing myself that I couldn't let him out. So I started smacking his head on the floor and just yelling at him like, you need to stop doing this. And then, it's like, I felt horrible. And so he started bleeding. Like I really got, I sort of, he cut himself from the, hits, and it's horrifying. I don't, every time I remember, it's just horrible. And I was hoping that my brother would stop me or anybody that was around. Mostly there were kids. And so the owner the owner was behind this, on the back of the arcade, there was this big glass, wall, and it was actually a one-way mirror. And so that the owner can see from his office what's going on in the arcade. And so he finally realized, that I was fighting, that we were fighting, and all the kids started yelling and everything. So he came out and literally picked me off of him, and then just like yanked my hands and everything, because I just couldn't let go. I was like, I sort of like blacked out. I don't remember everything in detail, because all I could remember was that I couldn't let him up. That's all I felt, that if I let him, get up, he was gonna ruin me. And so I was so frightened. And so that happened. They called the ambulance, so they came in and like took care of the kid, and they sort of like talked to us and everything. And I mean, I remember just shaking and being so nervous. And then of course my brother was like all proud and, oh, you did it, and I'm so proud of you, and blah blah blah. He was young, so like really. And I felt terrified. And then I started getting scared because I know I have to go back to school. I know I'm going to have to face him somehow. He's going to be even worse. If it was a monster before, he's going to be this evil person, Probably now he can truly have a vendetta against me. And then, I gave him a reason. I couldn't. Like, I thought instead of fixing it, I made it worse. So we ended up going back to school, and then I started to realize that he was frightened of me. Like, he couldn't look at me anymore. And then on the street, the couple times that I encounter him after that, he will run away. Like, he will see me coming, and then if we were on the same side of the street, he will go on the opposite side, like literally just to avoid me. And he stopped completely of harassing other kids and physically pushing them, and like, he stopped. And that's when I sort of started feeling, relaxed. But at the end of the day, till this day, I feel bad that I've never had the opportunity to apologize to him for doing that. I don't like that. I don't like that about me. And sometimes I question myself. I'm like, if something was ever to go down that is out of your, out of your control, how would I behave? So I always wonder, how would I behave? Would I black out, or knowing what I know now, So it's very interesting. I guess what we can take away from this is to learn that aggression is not the answer. Don't ever allow other people to convince you to do something you don't want to do, to put you in a position that can cause more harm than anything. Because my nature is not to be aggressive, so it causes more problems than anything. Yeah, it's a story that every time I think, I was like, I wish I have the opportunity to now as an adult see where he's at and where his mindset is, But again, I wouldn't even know what he looks like now, or, for all you know, I don't even know if he's still alive, which let's hope he is, and he's got really a great life and really turn himself around or learn something from it. So yeah, that's the story for today. I hope you like this video. I hope you like the story. And mainly to get something from the story, which is the positive part. And yeah, so if you liked it, make sure to support it by giving it thumbs up, sharing it. If you really like my channel, make sure to subscribe if you want to know every time that I release a video. Remember, change your attitude, increase your gratitude. Bye. Because I like to be goofy. And oh, I'm so stupid, and I like it. If you would like to watch last week's video, make sure to click on this box right here, right now. But if you're more of an adventurous person,